Good day, everyone. Our research study entitled Parameters of Socialization During COVID-19 Among Criminology Students in the University of Mindanao. The researchers, Baon Jesame, Katunggal Mariana Lo, Marjorie Halandoon. For background of the study. Socialization is a destructive thought of dying in which a person tends to consider to commit taking their own life. It also believed that it was driven by different factors that could result in thinking negatively that could impact the lifestyle of the person and their psychological well-being, according to Merrill D. 2020. According to Rudlin K. 2020, there are two types of suicidal ideation. First is passive. Passive refers to the continuous thinking of suicide ideation, while active, it refers to the action that decided to commit suicide. However, the COVID-19 pandemic has extensively led to the increase of rates of suicidal ideation that cause mental health issues to those university students. TM et al. 2020. Survey conducted from March to April 2020 from TM et al. 2020 that out of 1,879 students or 470 had experienced moderate to severe anxiety, and the remaining percentage of it are experience moderate to severe depression and stress. The research agenda focuses on the criminology students of University of Mindanao that are at risk of suicidal ideation, and to determine whether the prevalence rates of suicidal ideation increases during the time of COVID-19 pandemic, and to give awareness for those people that encounter suicidal ideation. The purpose of this study is to determine whether the prevalence of rates in suicidal ideation increases among criminology students at the University of Mindanao, Davao City during COVID-19 pandemic. This sought to answer the questions: what is the demographic profile of the respondents? It includes age, sex, and college level. What are the risk factors that can lead to an increase in suicidal ideation? The variables include stress, anxiety, and depression. 3. Is there any significant difference in the rates of parameters of suicide ideation among the criminology students before and during the COVID-19 pandemic crisis? The hypothesis of our study, we believe that there is no significant difference in the prevalence of suicidal ideation among the criminology students at the University of Mindanao on before and during the COVID-19 pandemic crisis. Scope and delimitation. This study mainly focuses on the suicidal ideation of criminology students at the University of Mindanao.
Theoretical framework. This study is a substructure of a theory that is interpersonal psychological theory. Now, what is the relation between our study and this theory? Interpersonal psychological theory imposes that self-destructive contemplation. It come out with a reason of oppressiveness and upset belongingness. According to Brook 2020, suicidal ideation can be triggered because of being isolated in one place, especially now that we have COVID-19 pandemic. We can't go anywhere or any other place but in our home only. The feeling of sorrow, nervousness, unhealthy sleeping disorder, and unstable mental health is truly occurring in every individuals. It falls under the manifestation of mental health, which is relatable for us criminology students because we have been acquainted with it before COVID-19. Significance of the study. How could it be beneficial to the development of other individual or other organizations? In criminology student, it will help to enlarge the perception with regards to suicidal ideation in order to keep away from the conflicts of their daily lives. And in fact, it is our starting point to be vigilant in ourselves as a criminology student. For the professors, this study may serve as an enlightenment for them to have an aspiration that focuses the mental health of the students in order for them to be watchful to those students who are embracing those kinds of factors that can contribute to suicidal ideation of the students. And for those future researches, it can be their fundamental basis with a issue of suicidal ideation in order for them to be to collect factual data that will confer about mental issues, which is consequential factor to be considered upon the analysis of this mental awareness. Definition of terms. Now, we have 4 terms. It is suicidal ideation, stress, anxiety, and depression. So, suicidal ideation, it is a self-destructive because of a lot of problems and a feeling of bombarded and occupied of a lot of things. Stress, it is a desire of emotional or physical strain that is exposed to feel irritated, and most of the time you are annoyed with everything or everyone. And anxiety, it is a reaction to pressure that includes a feeling of being uneasy and scared about something that you don't know. Depression, it is a feeling of continuous sadness, the absence of interest of everything, including being useless, unwanted, and the feeling of being disturbance to others. Next slide is methodology in pertaining to the research design. Quantitative research. This study is under quantitative research in order to quantify behaviors and attitudes that constitute from a population in University of Mindanao, particularly in Davao City. It is conforming to the experimental approach. It is used to this study because it has been tested the effect of COVID-19 pandemic in connection with the suicidal ideation, even if it is increasing or stable or decreasing. It is to establish that the cause and effect of the variables supported.
Research subject. In this research, we use the systematic sampling method in surveying by disseminating the questionnaire among the respondents. The respondents are the criminology student at the University of Mindanao, which there are about 350 respondents. The only facet way is how these participants identify themselves if the prevalence of rate of suicidal ideation increases during the COVID-19 pandemic. Research instruments. In this study, we as a researcher, we used a self-made questionnaire modeled through online questionnaire in which we will send the questionnaire via email, Gmail account, or other social media platforms. The scaling technique, a rating scale of the respondents' responses in the prevalence rate of the suicidal ideation increases. This research instrument is composed of 21 questions with the scale of 1, strongly disagree, 2, disagree, 3, neutral, 4, agree, and 5, strongly agree. In that way, it would lead the researchers to determine the prevalence rate of suicidal ideation during the COVID-19 pandemic. Range of mean. 5, very high, which indicates that there is a very high level of suicidal ideation. 4, high, this indicates that there is a high level of suicidal ideation. 3 means moderate, that indicates that there is a moderate level of suicidal ideation. 2, low, this indicates that there is a low level of suicidal ideation. And 1, very low, this indicates that there is a very low level of suicidal ideation. The draft will be submitted to the advisor for checking and submitted to the Board of Specialists for approval with an in the general rating is acceptable. The scores were scaled using the following range and rate of suicidal ideation of criminology students of University of Mindanao. Data gathering procedure. The following are the data gathering procedure that was used in collection of data. Number 1, seeking permission to conduct the study. A letter with an attached, adapted, and validated questionnaire was prepared by asking permission from the Dean to conduct the study within the field of the University of Mindanao, Davao City. Administration and retrieval of the research instruments. After the approval, we as researchers prepared uniform consents applicable to all participants. The researchers disseminated the informed consent to those who are conveniently available criminology students at the University of Mindanao, set time and set date of the participants to participate in the study. Collection of the data. The quantitative process wherein the participants answer the survey questionnaire will be recovered, counted, and classified. Analysis of data. We as researchers will examine the differences in the patterns and relations of the answers. The researchers used statistical tools needed for the analysis of the data. This determined the outcome and result required for the research. Statistical treatment of data. The following are the tools that the researchers used to test hypotheses at the end of the process and interpret the data effectively. Frequency and percentages. This was used to determine how many of the participants agreed and disagreed. Mean. This study was employed to identify the average scores, which determines the participants' parameter of suicidal ideation of the criminology student of the University of Mindanao. Pearson. This data, all the information are gathered to know the knowledge and experiences of the research participants that can use to determine the significant relationship between anxiety, depression, and stress to suicidal ideation of criminology student in the University of Mindanao, Maine.